From San Diego, California, Mission Bay Park, ESPN, the Total Sports Network, presents the world's fastest racing boats, the unlimited hydroplanes. And today, it's the Circus Thunderboat Regatta. I'm Jim Hendrick along with Sam Cole and our buddy Lucky, the Pink Panther from Circus. What you're about to see is the fastest race boats in the world, averaging about 30 foot long, 12 foot wide, weighing 5,000 to 7,000 pounds race ready, and will travel the length of a football field in 1.1 seconds, speeds of about 180 mile an hour in the straightaway. Sam Cole, after we've had some recent tragedies in the sport, we look at the pit area right now. We have 16 boats in the pits, 12 have qualified. This sport by no means is dying.
Right you are, Jim Hendrick. By the way, we've had 5 different winners this year in Thunderboat racing. 4 of those winning boats are down in the pit area today, including the Atlas Van Lines, Chip Hanauer, Jim Kropfeld, and Miss Budweiser. Any one of 5 boats could win this race here today.
And of course, this is the fastest race course we have actually in the sport.
That's right, and just this week it was named after Bill Munsey, the legend who made San Diego his home. The course is now called the Bill Munsey Memorial Course, and it is the fastest body of water these boats race on anywhere in the United States.
And because it has a natural amphitheater, there are no backwash coming from seawalls. The waves, of course, dissipate on sandy beach. It's salt water, and it's at sea level, and these engines can really perform. In just a moment, we'll be checking in on the first heat of action here in San Diego. Jim Hendrick along with Sam Cole at Mission Bay. 45 seconds to the start of this race. All 6 participants on the course. Sam, run them down.
We've got the Atlas Van Lines and Chip Hanauer, the fastest qualifier for today's race. Behind him, the Budweiser Light and Scott Pierce, the Aeronaut Unlimited, the automotive boat with Buck Thornton, the U-80 and Ron Armstrong, the Executone and George Johnson, and the Tempest with Jack Schaefer Jr. All 6 boats running as we're about 20 seconds away from the start of this race.
It looks like the Tempest wants the inside with Jack Schaefer in lane number 1. Coming wide is the Budweiser Light, also the Atlas Van Lines, and we have a few that are trailing up there, Sam. 3 look like they're on the money with about 10 seconds to go. It's the Atlas Van Lines on the outside. Right next to him, to the right, is the Budweiser Light, and they're coming up side by side with about 2 seconds. 1 second. There's the gun. It's a legal start. It's Atlas Van Lines in front.
Chip Hanauer, the Atlas Van Lines, your leader as they head down to the first turn, Jim, and the whole field was way early at that start as they came up here for us.
And half the field was really late.
That's
right
right
now, as they go down to the first turn, it's coming off of corner number 2, coming down the back chute right now. Our leader, the Blue Blaster, driven by Chip Hanauer, who would like to clinch the National Crown today. And he is now starting down the back chute in lap number 1 in lane number 2, but coming up on the inside and going to give him a battle. Here comes the Budweiser Light. The Atlas Van Lines has a problem, and it's Scott Pierce taking over in Budweiser Light. And the Atlas Van Lines is slowing way down, Sam. He's busted something, and Scott Pierce now takes a tremendous lead by about 10 boat lengths going down here to corner number 3.
That's right, the 1981 co-rookie of the year, Scott Pierce, and the Budweiser Light pushed Chip Hanauer to the brink. The Atlas Van Lines has lost an engine going very, very slowly. Pierce brings it around the lower turn. He's in first place, and you know it's his first ride in Bernie Little's new boat, and we have a fire aboard the Atlas Van Lines, but right now we're watching Scott Pierce and the Budweiser Light bring it around Jim Hendrick.
As it comes down here to complete lap number 1, 4 more laps to go. As we said, the co-rookie of the year, 1981, Scott Pierce in the Budweiser Light comes down here in first place and has completed the first lap. Meanwhile, there's a lot of smoke down there on that back chute for the Atlas Van Lines, who has really cooked an engine. You can see all that oil smoke. The Tempest is in second, the Aeronaut Special is in third, and the U-80 is in fourth. There's the Aeronaut who's coming across. Our leader now is coming down to complete, coming down in the off of corner number 2 to come down the back chute now in lap number 2. The yellow flag is out.
That's because there's caution because the Atlas is going very, very slowly. The officials, Lee Shaniff and the like, will be watching over there because that boat's creating a great big wake. Let's see what happens now with Scott Pierce and the Budweiser Light. Our lead boat takes it down there. You know, Jim, the second place boat here today, the Tempest, Jack Schaefer Jr., he told us earlier that he had some tricks up his sleeve, and Jack's getting the most out of Chuck Hickling's ride. Coming up on him is Ron Armstrong of the Campbell Food Service, and we've lost Buck Thornton down in that turn somewhere.
Our lead boat is at corners number 2 and 3 and 4 rather, coming down now to complete lap number 2 under the caution flag, comes close into lane number 1. That is Scott Pierce in the Budweiser Light. Well, now Scott Pierce is having things pretty much his own way at this point, and earlier Sam Cole had a chance to talk to last year's co-rookie of the year.
1981 Rookie of the Year, Scott Pierce. Have you finally gotten something you want to drive?
Yeah, it's been a long haul, but I'm very, very happy with the boat and Anheuser-Busch and John Still and all the people involved with it, and we're running very well, and I'm just very, very happy.
Let me ask you, you've never been in something with the capabilities that this boat's shown thus far. Are you afraid of it, or are you going to go for it?
Oh, we're going for it all the way. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't ready to go for it. Just hopefully everything's going to hold up for us, and we should be able to win this one.
Back to the action right now. Our leader's the Budweiser Light with about a half a lap to go. Leading is Scott Pierce driving. Second place has been taken over by the U-80, Ron Armstrong, as the Tempest has had a problem like the Atlas Van Lines. Tempest going very slow, Sam. What do you think he's blowing?
He may have lost a supercharger because he didn't lose an engine. It would have slowed down. It may have been a front end, but he thinks he can get it around the engine on the primer and that type of thing. But right now, here comes our winner, Scott Pierce, to win his first heat in 1982.
All right, this will be his first victory in a brand new boat. Taking over the seat now as Scott Pierce comes down closer to shore. The checker flag is waiting. Scott Pierce out of Seattle right now, driving the Budweiser Light for the Prodelco Racing Team. That'll make Bernie Little happy having that entry in there today, Sam. First place.
That's right. You know, you got to feel sorry in that heat for Chip Hanauer and the Atlas Van Lines. We asked him before the race because he, if they had any gremlins or anything going into the national championship run, and they lost an engine there. Here's our second place boat, Ron Armstrong.
Ron Armstrong of the U-80, who in the Seattle race sat Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser for the one race, trying to get the bugs out of that. Our third place boat would be the Executone with George Johnson. Did not finish to the to the Arano, and also to the Tempest. So give us the official rundown right now, Sam.
Okay, we'll have the Budweiser Light. The winner was Scott Pierce. Second place, the U-80 and Ron Armstrong. Third place, it'll be the Executone with George Johnson. Fourth will go to Tempest. Fifth will go to the Arano Unlimited, and the sixth place boat with the did not finish, the Atlas Van Lines.
ESPN's extensive coverage of auto racing 82 season continues throughout the winter months. You'll see the biggest names on the NASCAR circuit, including Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, Darrell Waltrip, Daytona 500 champ Bobby Allison, and many others. ESPN's the place to be for the very best in auto racing throughout the 82 season. And we'll be back with more action on the Circus Thunderboat Regatta here in San Diego after this timeout. Back here for heat number 2, San Diego Missions Bay, the Circus Regatta. There's our Circus chopper, now piloted by Mel Larson, and Mike Noonan, one of the assistant referees to the chief. Lee Shaneth is up there now watching very closely for this all-important start. They can maintain and call infractions from that, looking straight down on the course to see if these guys change lane or they are illegal. The rundown, if you will, Sam.
30 seconds to start. Jim Hendrick gets Miss Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld. The Squire Shop and Tom DeEath. The Coberly Chevrolet and Terry Turner. The Kenny Toyota, Ron Snyder. The Gilmore Special and Steve Reynolds. And the Miss KYYX, Brenda Jones. But Ron Snyder won't be here at the start. Jim Hendrick.
As they come down right now, it's the Budweiser leading the pack with Jim Kropfeld, the rookie, getting his baptism of fire. He may be just a little early. Now here comes Tommy DeHeath in the Squire Shop. He's going to be a little early, and I believe he's crossed it over. You've got two boats. All right, now that's all important. I believe that the Budweiser and the Squire Shop may have been early. We'll have to get that officially now from the referee, Sam.
Let's wait and see what happens, because right now we're down there. It's Jim Kropfeld and Miss Budweiser out in first place. We'll keep our eye up there and see what happens. They will turn the clock back orange if something's wrong out there, so we'll wait and see.
Now explain to the people, if you will, Sam, in your position as a color commentator and information, how do the drivers know that they have jumped the clock?
Okay, we're on a what they do, Jim, with our big orange starting clock, it blacks out at the start of the race. If someone jumps the gun, they will crank the clock back to make it half orange and half black. That's the only signal the drivers have. They don't know who jumped the gun, but they know someone did, so it really makes them get racing when they're out here.
Now, what is the penalty for jumping the clock?
1 extra lap.
So if that is true, and the Miss Budweiser, driven by Jim Kropfeld right now, if he has jumped the clock officially, and we'll get word on that, he was no longer in first place. He is actually in about fourth place. So as they take a good shot of the rookie Jim Kropfeld from Cincinnati, Miss Budweiser, he comes down now to complete unofficially lap number 1.
That's right, and his speed was right around 122 miles an hour. Second place, Tommy Deeb in Bob Styles' Fire Shop. And here he comes, and sitting back in third is the Coberly Chevy Special with Terry Turner.
And coming up the challenge is the fourth place boat. And that would be the Gilmore Special. The Gilmore Special with Steve Reynolds, and they are not blocking the clock out. They are not blocking the clock out. I thought they were on at my time, but of course our time is not official. Maybe the gun malfunctioned. If that's the case, then they're all right. We listened for the gun. The gun did not fire till it fired late, but that could have been a clock malfunction. If that is the case, then this man here, Jim Cropfield, the rookie, getting his first baptism of fire, and Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser is well on his way to 400 points with the Atlas Van Lines down. That what does that do to the national high points at this point?
Okay, the Atlas Van Lines was leading the national high points race going into that heat by 612 points. If Cropfield can keep it together here, he will pick up 400 points and cut it down to 212 points. And Jim, that's only a third place finish in Thunderboat racing. Cropfield's first lap, by the way, 125.7 miles an hour.
He's looking back at something in his engine. He may have a problem. You know, he's had problems earlier today, and he better just save it if he can. He has now just completed lap number 2, and he'll have 3 more laps to go. Here's our second place boat from Fairhaven, Michigan. The driver is. That's Tommy DeHeath, who's won a couple of races this year, as he goes by in the Squire Shop out of Seattle. Tommy won our last race on ESPN. That was the Tri-Cities Columbia Cup race. There's our leader now, coming off of corner number 2 and coming down the back chute. Sam?
Okay, we checked it out, Jim. No one jumped the gun here, so no one is penalized. As we've been calling it, that's the way the boats line up here in this heat. Jim Cropfield, your leader, in Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser.
That's Steve Reynolds right there. Steve Reynolds is now trying to challenge for third place in the Gilmore Special, his first ride in this boat. And Sam, I understand he had some interesting things to say just prior to this race down in the pits.
Steve, you're driving for A.J. Foyt's sponsor. Did you get any advice from Supertex today?
No, we haven't heard from Supertex. Mary, the owner of the boat, did talk with both Jim Gilmore and A.J., and they wished us all the luck in the world. In traditional Gilmore style, we're going to go out and give it everything we've got today.
Steve, 4 years ago, this very race course, you started racing in the same boat under different colors. It's a bit of a step down from what you've been driving, but I understand there's a lot of potential there.
Tremendous amount of potential. If you look at the prestige and the background of a Jim Gilmore, and you look at our equipment, knowing that it's about 8 or 9 years old, Jim Gilmore's style is not to sit back and take thirds and fourth places. I think that Jim Gilmore is going to be a strong supporter in this sport for many years to come. I'm very proud to be associated with him.
How about Steve Reynolds? What are you trying to get out of the boat today?
Well, Sam, you know, I've got an awful lot of good guys working for me. They really are. And even though our equipment is not quite as fast as some of the people here, we still have an awful lot of pride surrounding that Gilmore name. We're going to get everything there is to be had out of that boat. At the end of the day, if we do that, we've had a successful day.
Back here right now, and he has just completed lap number 3. He had a lap and 3/4 to go, and there's the story. Jim Cropfield, the rookie, driving Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser, has blown something in the engine housing. He was well on his way to 400 points. He's out of the cockpit now, standing up with his arms, and he goes to, well, he's not going to finish, and there it is. It's back to a 612-point lead for the Atlas Van Lines, as luck would have it, and there's the Gilmore Special. He is now moved up to third. Our leader right now, picking it up down the back chute with a lap and a half to go, will be Tommy DeHeath from Fairhaven, Michigan, a winner of a couple of races this year. He's got a leg up on 400 points now if he can keep it together for about a lap and a quarter in the Squire Shop.
And if anyone in this sport carries a 4-leaf clover in their pocket, it's got to be Tom DeHeath. He goes out there knowing that he's not the fastest boat on the race course, but he says, I'm there to win, and I'll win at any cost, but at the slowest speed possible. And here's Tommy DeHeath in Bob Styles Squire Shop, the winner of the Columbia Cup, the winner of the Indiana Governor's Cup, and our leader here right now, Jim.
One more lap to go, and there's the story. Bernie Little's crew, if they had no luck this year, if they didn't have any bad luck, they have no luck at all. Jim Cropfield dejectedly now sitting in the cockpit. He had his leg up on his first victory in Unlimited's ever. Something let go in the engine housing just after coming off of corner number 2 on lap number 4. He was about a lap and 3/4 away from victory. Our second place boat behind the Squire Shop is the Coberly Chevrolet Special, driven by Terry Turner of Southern California. That's unusual. Twin Chevy automobile-powered engines in that boat.
That's right, one of the two boats here today that have automotive power, but the Squire Shop, as we see here, uses Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, and Tommy DeHeath will be on his green flag lap.
All right, it'll be 400 points for first place, 300 points for second, 225 awarded for third, 169 for fourth, and all this preliminary action. Of course, they want to accumulate the most points they can, and they can end up in the final to run for the money. Our cameras are now on our leader coming off of corner number 4. The checker flag is ready at the apex, and it is Tommy DeHeath in Bob Stiles' Squire Shop from Seattle as he shakes loose and comes down close to shore. The checker flag is waiting, and in victory, it'll be victory for the Squire Shop and Tommy DeHeath here in heat number 2, Mission Bay in San Diego. There he is, the winner. Second place will be the Coberly Chevrolet Special, driven by Terry Turner. If he can hold it, third place would go to the Gilmore the Gilmore Special. I want to say Chevy because, of course, our buddy Jim Gilmore is the Chevy dealer, but he's running with aircraft engines now is Steve Reynolds as he goes down the back chute. There's our second place boat right now. The only automotive-powered unlimited hydro on the circuit, twin engines, and our leader there is on his victory lap. He is already finished. That's Tommy DeHeath right now. So now, give us the official order finish, if you will, Sam Cole.
Okay, Jim, the winner, Tom DeHeath in the Squire Shop. He'll receive 400 points. Second place goes to the Coberly Chevrolet Special with 300 points. Third place, the Gilmore Special, Steve Reynolds with 225. Fourth place, but no points, will be the Budweiser. Fifth place, no points, the Frank Kenny Toyota Volvo. And sixth place with no points, and it did not start, Brenda Jones and the Miss KYYX.
We'll be back with more action on the Circus Thunderboat Regatta here in Mission Bay, San Diego in just a moment. This is Jim Hendrick along with Sam Cole back here on Mission Bay in San Diego, California for the third preliminary heat of the day, and they're trying to advance to the finals. And while we're waiting for the 1 minute gun, Sam, why don't you bring us up to date on how these boats advance to the 1 minute, to the final rather?
Jim, that was the 1 minute gun. We're 1 minute away. What happened? The boats are paired the way they finished the first heat. In this heat, we had the Squire Shop and the Budweiser Light, the first heat winners, the Executone and Gilmore Special, the third place finishers in that heat, and the Arano and the Toyota, the fifth place finishers. Next time around, we'll take the boats 2, 4, and 6 from the first heat. But right now, we're about 30 seconds away, and to bring them around, Jim Hendrick.
All right, I'll tell you right now, the Bud Light did not make the start. They did not get underway by the 1 minute gun. We're down to 5 boats in the Squire Shop and leading them up into there. And you can see that clock now is going black. It's about 25 seconds to the start of this race, a flying start. It'll be on the inside, lane 1 will be Tommy DeHeath in the Squire Shop, followed by the Gilmore Special with Steve Reynolds. Now coming up is on the inside, it's going to be the Frank Kenny Toyota with Ron Snyder. He wants lane 1. Lane 2 is the Gilmore Special. Lane 3 on the outside coming to the start. Tommy DeHeath in the Square Shop. The clock goes back and the race is on.
And it's Tom DeHeath in the Squire Shop and Steve Reynolds. Reynolds in the lead in the Gilmore Special as they head down.
Hold it. We just had a boat that went way up into the crowd, almost onto the beach.
Jim, while we're waiting to get there.
That was Buck Thornton, almost went on the shore, but our leader right now, and it's going to be the Frank Kenny Toyota, and on his hip is the Squire Shop as they come down now. It is the Frank Kenny Toyota, driven by Ron Snyder. Now look at this drag race off of corner number 2, and it's the Squire Shop with Tommy DeHeath, and here comes Snyder. He answers the call on the inside, and they're almost side by side as they come down the back chute of lap number 1, and Buck Thornton's boat is out of the race now. The Arno Special, as he was almost beached, coming way wide on the start. We follow our leader, Frank Kenny Toyota, coming up the corner number 3 down in the pit area now to come around to complete lap number 1. And look at Tommy DeHeath in the Square Shop come through some slop in lane number 2, and he's going to take a lead right there. He's swinging wide, keeping his RPMs up.
As they come out of there, it's Ron Snyder in the Frank Kenny Toyota on the inside, Tommy DeHeath on the outside, and Snyder's in the lead right now, Jim.
There it comes, side by side, to complete lap number 1. Look at there, they're almost side by side as they come down here and complete lap number 1. It'll be the Squire Shop by about a boat and a half length, and in the inside and wobbling very badly in some slop is Ron Snyder and the Frank Kenny Toyota as they dive down to corner number 1 for the second time. This is the completion of lap number 1. 4 more laps to go. Third place is George Johnson in the Executone, and I have not seen the Gilmore Special or the Buck Thornton boat. Oh, I do see the Gilmore Special. He's laying dead now in corner number 2, and that's about where the boats are right now. There's our leader from Fairhaven, Michigan, Tommy DeHeath, winner of 2 events this year. As he comes down the back chute in lap number 2, he has 3.5 laps to go, and he could pick up his second straight finish for 400 points today, and that'll put him in the final, Sam.
That's right, but we're going to have to go back to the start and see what Chief Referee Lee Shaneth says about what happened back there. It was obvious that George Johnson and Buck Thornton, close to the shoreline, got tangled up. Thornton washed down by the executone. No flags or no penalties thus far against the executone. Meanwhile, Steve Reynolds up in that turn appeared to have taken on some water. He's out on the Gilmore Special working on that. But right now, here's Mr. Tom DeHeath out of Fairhaven, Michigan, our leader, as he completes lap number 2.
Comes down to complete lap number 2, and Lee Shannon, the referee, has ordered the yellow flag up to warn him there are boats on the course. And he comes off the spots and the spots and comes down. Completion of lap number 2 at around 114 mile an hour. That one last lap was about 117.401. 117.401, lap number 2. Meanwhile, our second place boat is having some troubles. Frank Kenny Toyota is coming very slowly with Ron Snyder at the wheel off of corner number 2. He is slowed way down after giving it a battle for that first lap. That'll pretty much put things his own way for Tommy DeHeath. And Bernie Little, the winningest owner in the history of the sport, of course, has had his bad luck here today when he saw his Budweiser, Miss Budweiser, with rookie Jim Cropfield come off of corner number 2 with about a lap and 3/4 to go and then blow an engine. But Bernie's been a competitor all of his life, and earlier today we had a chance to talk to Mr. Hydroplane. And the beat goes on as the Miss Budweiser, in its 20th year of competition, of course, the boss, Bernie Little, the winningest owner in the history of the sport. Bernie, you've had your problems, but Anheuser-Busch and Budweiser, and you continue. Why?
Well, yes, Jim, it's probably one of the greatest sports in the world, and where better to make friends than right here at this boat race. And with all the thousands of people that'll be here today to see the Miss Budweiser go out to take a win.
Okay, now what about your new driver, Jim Cropfield? Comes with a lot of credentials.
Yeah, he's got a lot of credentials. I have all of them on my desk, and needless to tell you, we considered a lot of people, and Jim stood out heads above everyone else, and we're really proud and glad to have him with the Miss Budweiser team.
It takes more than a driver, a sponsor, and an owner to run a hydroplane. How about your crew?
Well, you know, we've been together for some of us 17 years, 12 years, 14 years, and I think we probably have the best respected crew on the circuit. They've proven themselves year after year, and going for 80 and 81 with national championships, the World Championship in 80 and 81, and up until our tragic this year, we were national high point leader, and of course, we missed a race in Tri-City, but we'll be right in there, if not this year, for sure next year.
Dave Culley seems to be a professional crew chief.
He is more than professional crew chief. I got to tell you, Dave does one whale of a job, and all the boys do, and they all pull for one thing, and that's a win.
Actually, you have 2 boats in this race you're sponsoring.
Yes, we do. That is the ex-Miss Budweiser that was national champion previous years, and we felt it was very important for it to be here to support this race. So Budweiser Light is sponsoring our second boat, and they're running real well, and we look for them to, we'd like to do a 1-2 here at the San Diego race.
Bernie Little, the winningest owner in the history of the sport. Of course, that was a happier moment earlier today prior to race time, and Bernie's boats, well, they've had their problems here today. Our leader, with about a 1/4 of a lap to go, is Tommy DeHeath from Fairhaven, Michigan. The boat, of course, out of Seattle, owned by Bob Style and the Squire Shop people. Second place boat, well, that's the third place boat. He's already been passed. He's having problems. Ron Snyder holding on the third right there, as our second place boat has just come down to complete lap number 4 with 1 lap to go. So here comes our leader off of corner number 4, Tommy DeHeath, for his second straight 400-point victory here today in preliminaries. He'll advance to the finals in the Squire Shop, the winner of Heat 3. Second place overall will have to go, I believe, to the Executone if he can keep it going, and we're just now wondering if Frank Kenny Toyota can keep it going with Ron Snyder at the wheel, on plane enough to get third place finishes. And Sam, if you will, right now run down the official order of finish and who advances to the final from this flight.
Our winner, the Squire Shop and Tom DeHeath with 800 points. Second place goes to the Executone and George Johnson with 525 points. Third place, the Frank Kenny Toyota with Ron Snyder, 225. The Gilmore Special and Steve Reynolds, they did not finish. The Aerono Unlimited and Buck Thornton, they did not finish. And the Budweiser Light and Scott Pierce did not start.
We'll be back with more action from the Circus Thunderboat Regatta here on Mission Bay, San Diego, after this timeout. Jim Hendrick along with Sam Cole, Mission Bay, San Diego, and our ESPN crew covering the Circus Regatta. And Sam, run down the field if you would.
We've got the Atlas Van Lines and Chip Hanauer, the Miss Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld, the KYYX and Brenda Jones, the Tempas and Jack Schaefer, the Coberly Special with Terry Turner, and the U80 with Ron Armstrong with about 25 seconds to the start of the race, Jim Hendrick.
And they're all going up now to corner number 3. It looks like Kropfeld wants to take the Budweiser in lane 1 and on his hip. In lane number 2 is the Atlas Van Lines, but we're going to have a traffic jam and a lot of water up there. We'll have to watch. It looks like Kropfeld will have to settle for lane number 2 as the Tempest steals lane 1 with Jack Schaefer. It's Jack Schaefer, the Tempest in lane 1. Here comes the Budweiser in lane 2, followed by the Coberly Special in lane 3. On the outside, it's the Atlas Van Lines in lane 4, and there's the start of the race. It's going to be Budweiser, Atlas side by side.
Chip Hanauer, the Atlas Van Lines, your leader, Jim, but Jim Kropfeld and the Miss Budweiser right behind him. But it's Hanauer and the Atlas on the outside, Budweiser on the inside as they dive into the first turn.
As they go into the first turn on the inside, it is the Budweiser with the rookie from Cincinnati, Jim Kropfeld, and Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser. But on the outside, taking over about a 4-boat length lead, keeping the RPMs up, is Chip Hanauer and the Atlas Van Lines. And both these boats, the Budweiser and the Atlas, blew their engines while in the lead in their 2 previous attempts at a preliminary heat to qualify for the final. And now as they go down the back chute, opening up about an 8-boat length lead is the Atlas Van Lines, as the Budweiser has now set in a slot in lane number 2, and maybe for the wiser, because he'll have to run in the consolation anyway. In fact, I think both these boats would. Third place is the U80. Fourth is the Coberly Special. Then the Tempest, followed by, I believe, is the KYYX, with Brenda Jones, the only woman in the fleet. Our leader now comes off of corner number 3 and 4 at the apex. Look at that rooster tail rise as he hangs it in tight, puts on the nitrous oxide button, comes a little light on the left sponson, but coming down to complete lap number 1, it is Atlas Van Lines with Chip Hanauer. We see a little blue smoke down there in the background. There's lane number 1. Watch for the time, Sam. And as our second place boat is going to be the Miss Budweiser. Budweiser right now with Jim Kropfeld coming in to complete lap number 1. He's in second place. We have a battle for third. We have a battle for third coming up, but let's go back to our leader as he comes off of corner number 2 in lap number 3. The U80 and the Coberly Chevrolet Special are fighting side by side for third slot, while KYOX, Brenda Jones, and the Tempest bring up the rear. There's our leader. It is the Atlas Van Lines with Chip Hanauer. Right now, he's in lap number 2, and we're still waiting for our timers to give us the slot and see how fast they're going, but I believe it'd be over 119 mile an hour. What do you think?
That's right, Jim. They were moving 121.457 miles an hour. And, you know, right now everyone's jockeying for points to get into the final heat because that's what determines who's going to run for the Circus Cup. Chip Hanauer knows he has to run a faster heat than Scott Pierce in the Budweiser Light to be that boat to move up. So let's watch what happens here as Chip Hanauer takes it through turn 4.
Chip Hanauer is coming down now off of corner number 4 to come around and complete lap number 2 over 124 mile an hour. His first lap, and he comes through some slop. Our second place boat is the Budweiser, just going into corner number 3 right now. Jim Kropfeld holding second slot and looking for 300 points, and maybe he's trying to save the engines because he knows that his engine and the Atlas both blew last time out. Sam?
As Jim Kropfeld brings it out of here, Jim, his first race as an unlimited driver, but coming up on the inside is Ronnie Armstrong in the U80. Those two are going to have a heck of a battle for second place, but right now Chip Hanauer has things pretty much his own way. He's won 3 races this year on the Thunderboat Tour. Here comes Jim Kropfeld, crosses the line, Jim.
That's our second place boat, the Miss Budweiser, coming in towards shore. Now we pick up our first place boat down the back chute on lap number 3 now. Over 124 mile an hour his first lap. Looks like Chip Hanauer is getting a pretty good ride right now after blowing his engine in the very first heat while out in front.
Chip slowed way down that time to 112.270 miles an hour.
Sam Cole had a chance to talk to our leading driver, which we're watching in action right now. Chip Hanauer in the pits today.
Jim Kropfeld earlier said that he didn't feel that he had the confidence to go out there and put it on the line today, but his crew did. Does Chip Hanauer have that confidence on Bill Muncie's race course?
Oh, yeah. You know, I've been driving the boat all year, and we've got the thing's really coming of age. It's getting dialed in closer and closer every race. So I think if we have to run hard, we're ready to do that.
Well, the mythical national championship is near hand. Are the gremlins around, or?
Well, there are always gremlins around. You know, they can get you at any time, and you just can't snooze. You know, you've got to run hard every heat here, but yet we've got to, you know, be somewhat conservative so that we be sure not to break anything. I have a feeling that national championship's not going to be sewn up here. I have a feeling it's going to come down to that last race.
Very nice young man, as his words to Samco earlier prior to this race, Chip Hanauer, and you're watching him in action right now with less than a quarter of a lap to go, and he'll have his first heat victory here today. Chip Hanauer currently riding first, the Budweiser second, the U80 is currently third. And we have a dogfight going for third and fourth right now, but let's keep our eye on the leader. There's our second place boat, the Budweiser, back to our leader as he comes off of corner number 4, Chip Hanauer, driving the Atlas van lines. Chip, of course, is from Seattle. As the checker flag is waiting, Chip takes 400 points, his first score of the day, after having engine problems earlier in this race. Immediately, he cuts toward the infield and head back to the pits because he knows he has to get ready for another heat. All right, Sam, run down the finishers in this preliminary heat.
Our winner, Chip Hanauer in the Atlas van line. Second place goes to the Miss Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld. And third, it's the U80 and Ron Armstrong. And fourth, it's the Coberly Chevrolet with Terry Turner. Fifth place, Jack Schaefer in the Tempest. And in sixth place, the Miss KYYX and Brenda Jones. And after 2 completed heats of action here at the Circus Regatta, 5 boats advance to our winner-take-all finale. Those boats thus far, the Squire Shop, the U80, the Executone, the Coberly Chevy Special, and the Atlas van lines.
And of course, coming up will be our consolation race, which will also name our 6th finalist. Right?
That's right. The winner of that race moves up. 6 boats, winner-take-all finale.
More from the San Diego Circus Regatta for Thunderboats after this timeout. Back here at the Mission Bay in San Diego, California. This is the consolation race where the boats that have not accumulated enough points to make the final will fill the 6th and final slot. Sam, why don't you explain that? The winner of this takes it into the final, right?
That's right, Jim, and it looks like we're going to have 4 boats vying here for a shot at our winner-take-all finale. In the field, the Frank Kenny Toyota, Ron Snyder, the Tempest and Jack Schaefer Jr., the U43 and Will Muncie, and the U96, Brenda Jones.
Okay, the Bud Light and the Budweiser did not answer the sound of the 1-minute gun, so it is the Frank Kenny Toyota Tempest KYYX and the advanced audio driven by Will Muncie, which is Bill Muncie's son. As they come down now, we have about 20 seconds to the start of this race. Leading the pack up there, I believe, is the Tempest, followed by the KYYX on the outside. Then comes the Frank Kenny Toyota. As they come up here now, we have exactly 10 seconds to the start. 9 seconds. They're coming down now. They made a little early. And they make the start right now. It is the Tempest, followed by the KYYX, the advanced audio with Will Muncie, and the Frank Kenny Toyota. Sam?
Jim, our leader is Jack Schaefer Jr. out of Santa Ana, California in the Tempest. On the outside, coming up fast, though, is Miss Brenda Jones in the KYYX. Jack Schaefer puts it into turn 1, Jim Hendrick.
Okay, as they come out now, Jack Schaefer, if he knows if he can maintain this first place right now, he is going to advance to the final because we all have 5 set for the finale and the run for the money and the championship, of course, here in the Circus Regatta. And the Tempest slowing down. Jack Schaefer slowing down, and the Brenda Jones, the only woman in the field, takes over in the KYYX. She's won 1 heat this year, and that was in Seattle, our last race. Jack Schaefer is blowing something, and the only woman in the field is getting one heck of a cheer from the partisan crowd. Of course, mainly female, I would say, right now. But Brenda Jones is on her way. If she could just hold on. There's the Tempest going very slow. Maybe it's the blower. What do you think, Sam?
Well, I talked earlier, and they had some carburation trouble with the boat, and that may be just what it is. There he gets his foot back into it. It is carburetor problems with that boat. As he takes it down the back stretch, had a lot of trouble getting too much air, and the fuel mixture wasn't right. And Schaefer's just doing what he can here to keep the boat on a plane and continue down the course.
Here comes our leader, the Miss KYYX, Brenda Jones, the boat and the driver out of Seattle, the only woman in modern-day competition for the Big Thunderboats Unlimited. As Brenda comes by, complete lap number 1 with 4 more laps to go, and if she can maintain it, will advance to the final, Sam.
That's right. You know, she got in the final last month up in Seattle, the first time ever. She won her first heater racing here on ESPN back in Tri-Cities, Washington, and it looks like Pat O'Day's machine is well on its way to a trip to the winner-take-all finale. Brenda takes it through this turn, Jim. This boat's been around for about 5 or 6 years. Brenda's in her 2nd year of driving. Al Thorison, the crew chief, a 30-year veteran of hydroplane wars, and they've done a lot of different things. We have turbocharged boats. We have carbureted boats. Well, this boat is a carbureted and turbocharged boat, and it looks like they've got everything worked out right now.
She had her problems earlier today, but now she is on her way. If she could just maintain. There is Will Muncie right now in the U43 advanced audio going down the back chute. Our 2nd place boat The Frank Kenny Toyota is having some problems. I saw some smoke coming off those turbos, Sam. It didn't look good on the left side of the engine.
No, not at all. Ron Snyder seems to get everything going with that. He gets it up on a plane. They get up to about 140 miles an hour, and things go wrong. But once again, Brenda Jones just seems to have everything dialed in right as she brings that boat out of turn 4. And the boat you just saw there was the Tempest. Jack Schaefer trying to limp around the course for a finish. But here comes our leader, Brenda Jones, out of Seattle, Washington.
Okay, Brenda comes now to complete lap number 2, and she will, of course, be 3 laps away from making the final as she comes by in her Turbo Allison, the KYYX. She is the only woman in modern-day history and unlimited hydroplane racing today. And speaking of women in racing, the owner and the operator, the president of the Bill Muncy racing team is Fran Muncy. And we had a chance to talk to Fran earlier today. This is the memorial built here in the memory of Bill Muncy, the winningest driver in the history of the sport. It stands here very proudly at Mission Bay Park. And with me is Fran Muncy, who continued in memory of her husband. Fran, I imagine it has to surprise you that you're close to a national championship your first year with a brand new boat.
Oh, I know. It's just unbelievable. I wanted to carry on Bill's tradition, and I tried to do everything the way Bill would have. With the selection of the driver and Chip Hanauer, he's done just a great job, and the crew is, they almost perfection. It's been very exciting, but we couldn't have done it without Bill's spirit. We really feel that we've had that on our side this year.
A very gracious lady, the head of the Atlas Van Lines racing team, Fran Muncy. What a lady she is. And another lady right now is coming off of corner number 4 to win her second heat in her young career. And by virtue of this win here in the Constellation, will advance to the finals from KYYX. Brenda Jones out of Seattle. The checker flag is raised, and the fans are waving to the only woman in competition, Brenda Jones, qualifying for the finals. Second place will go to the U43 Advance Audio with Will Muncy, the son of the late Bill Muncy. Third place goes to Frank Kenny Toyota, Ron Snyder. And if you would, Sam, now run down the final field for the championship trophy and the top money.
Our 6 competitors will be the Squire Shop and Tom DeEath, the U80 and Ron Armstrong, the Executone with George Johnson, Coberly Chevrolet and Terry Turner, the Atlas Van Lines and Chip Hanauer, and the Miss KYYX and Brenda Jones.
We'll have the run for the checker flag and the top money on ESPN, the Total Sports Network, after this timeout. This is Jim Hendrick along with Sam Cole on ESPN, the Total Sports Network. The coverage of the Circus Thunderboat Regatta. This is for all the marbles. And as the 1 minute clock winds down, Sam, our final field.
Tommy DeEath aboard Bob Style Squire Shop, the U2 red and white Rolls Merlin powered boat on the course. Out there also the Atlas Van Lines and Chip Hanauer. Joining them, the Miss KYYX and Brenda Jones, and the Coberly Chevrolet Special with Terry Turner. Not starting for this final heat were the U80 driven by Ron Armstrong and the Executone driven by George Johnson.
Sam, as we look for about 20 seconds to go, it looks like the field might be early. Coberly is leading them up there with Terry Turner, but well, maybe he's not early. Maybe he's going to be late. Now he's going to be late, and look at the Atlas Van Lines and the Square Shop. They're coming on strong around the apex.
That's right, and as they come out of there, you see the Coberly Chevrolet Special on the inside. In the middle of your screen is the Atlas Van Lines. On the outside, the Squire Shop. They're all way late for this start because right now they're there. They're about 5 seconds late, but here we go, Jim Hendrick.
And it's going to be the Squire Shop with Tommy DeEath. Look at him pull the Atlas Van Lines with Chip Hanauer as he comes across the starting line and diving for corner number 1. And now with about a 150-yard lead as he goes wide into corner number 1.
And he lost an engine right there, Jim Hendrick, and Chip Hanauer's pulled off the lead. You saw the puff of smoke. Tommy DeEath slowed way down in the Squire Shop, and right now Chip Hanauer's in the driver's seat to go to the bank.
Well, I'll be darned. He had a real good lead. He had time to start. He was a little late, but he came on fast, and then all of a sudden, he made up that speed. He was leading, and all of a sudden, we look at him. He's down in the first corner, dead in the water, and he had the best starts of the day so far up until this time.
Well, you know, Tom DeEath always prides himself for his ability to start hydroplane races, and he was right there on the money. Very dejectedly sitting there. He's won 2 races this year, you know, in Pasco, Washington, and also Madison, Indiana. But right now, 27-year-old Chip Hanauer out of Seattle, Washington, sets the Atlas Van Lines up into the first turn here on the first lap in the finale of the Circus Thunderboat Regatta.
And it is the Atlas Van Lines at corner number 3 and 4 at the apex right now, coming around, keeping his RPMs wide. Look at that water come off that stern as he shakes and moves and comes down here to complete lap number 1 of 5. Chip Hanauer.
his speed there, 121 miles an hour. He's got a good-sized lead over our second-place boat right now. That's the Moberly Chevrolet Special. Hanauer, you know, has won 3 races this year. The APBA Gold Cup in Detroit, Michigan. Then he won the Evansville Thunder on the Ohio Bill Muncie Memorial Race, and his most recent win, the Sea Galley Emerald Cup up in Seattle, Washington. It looks like he's on his way to his 4th victory of this year's Thunderboat Tour, as Brenda Jones is out there in 3rd place right now in the Miss KYYX.
Yes, Brenda Jones in 3rd place behind the Moberly Chevrolet as Turner holds it tight for the 2nd place slot. Our leader is just coming down the back chute right now, shaking it loose on the nitrous oxide button, but he's not going to go as fast. He'll want to save his engine. He knows he can pick up 400 points. And Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, if he can hold his position, he'll be about 1,100 points ahead of the field with one more 1,200 point race to go, and that'll be in Houston, Texas in a couple of weeks.
That's right. We have 2 battles going on right here, right now, because number 1, the Atlas Van Lines is out to win the Circus Thunderboat Regatta. But number 2, the Atlas Van Lines is out to win our national championship. As you see, our 2nd place boat there, the Moberly Chevrolet Special. But Hanauer is trying to win the Unlimited National Championship both as a driver and as a boat. He's 700 points ahead of the Budweiser and Squire Shop right now, but a win here would put him 1,100 points into the lead.
Brenda Jones is slowing down as we took a look, Sam. She was currently 3rd place. 2 boats did not start. The Square Shop is down. We're down to a 3-boat heat. Our leader has completed 2 laps now, and he's down to about 112 mile an hour. And that is, of course, Chip Hanauer of the Atlas Van Lines. Our 2nd place boat is automotive-powered twin Chevys in the Moberly Special, driven by Terry Turner of Southern California. And our only girl driver in modern-day unlimited history, Brenda Jones of the KYYX, is slowing down. But correct me if I'm wrong, I believe she would take 3rd overall anyway.
That's right, based on the point system and that type of thing. She completed more laps than the Squire Shop. Here's our 2nd place boat, Terry Turner. Now, that boat is different than any other boat out here right now. Number 1, it's a conventional boat. The driver sits behind the engines. As you see, the Atlas Van Lines, Chip Hanauer's in a cab over. He's sitting in front of the engines as he goes down the backstretch. But Turner also has 2 automotive engines in there, while Hanauer, as you see here, is using a Rolls-Royce Merlin. He lost an engine in his first heat in the day, came back and won the 2nd one in convincing manner, and he's well on his way to another victory here in the finale.
All right, I'll tell you one thing. Riding in the front of the boat, he gets a cooler ride. Also, he can read the water better because he's out in front. But then the conventional type of hydro with the driver behind the engine, they have a warmer ride, but he can feel the attitude of the boat because he's sitting closer to the propeller. So there are 2 different theories of thought as the cab over versus the conventional. Coming down to complete lap number 3 now is the Atlas Van Lines, and there once again the man who led him into the first turn, a man who had won 2 heats already today, Tommy Heath from the Square Shop out of this race, and he'll of course finish in the money, but not the top money.
Well, very consistently is Chip Hanauer right now, running his boat at 112.5 miles an hour. Here you see Terry Turner in the Moberly Chevy Special. We go back now to Hanauer up in the upper turn as he cocks it around there and brings it out down the straightaway. He's on lap 4 right now. He'll get the green flag, showing him that there's 1 more lap to go here in this race here today.
Did you know that winning the consolation to make the final, Brenda Jones, the only woman entry, ran 3 laps without a skid fin? Maybe you better tell them what would could have happened to her had she gone sideways.
Well, the skid fin is a very huge piece of aluminum that goes down the left side of the boat. As the Atlas Van Lines goes down the straightaway here, you see the water coming up off the left side of boat, the sponson. That's caused by this 3-foot-long piece of aluminum called the skid fin. And as you see Terry Turner come through here, his boat has one. The water coming off the right side of the boat is caused by this skid fin. What it does, as the boats fly through the turn, it bites in the water, and it's the rudder and the skid fin that cause these boats to turn. Without a skid fin, it takes a heck of a lot of driving ability, and Brenda Jones proved that, and so is Chip Hanauer.
As he comes down now to take the green flag, as he comes close to shore, 1 more lap to go for Chip Hanauer of the Atlas Van Lines, and he'll have another victory of 1982 and just about assure himself of the national championship going into the next World Championship race at Houston, Texas.
He's kept it right in the line there, 112.5 miles an hour is Chip Hanauer. It's very, very consistent. That means he's got to be running that engine at about 3,800 RPMs all the way around the course, while Terry Turner is running his automobile engines at nearly 7,000 RPMs because they have to wind them a lot tighter to keep them going. What he has here are 2 blown Chevy engines that in tandem. They both power each other through the propeller, and it's a very different concept as compared to the Atlas Van Lines, which uses 1 aircraft engine.
Our leader right now, starting down the back chute, going past the middle island, has 1/2 a lap to go. And the Circus Thunderboat Regatta trophy will be his here in San Diego's Mission Bay. All the action, of course, on your Total Sports Network, ESPN.
A win here makes Chip Hanauer
gives him his 7th career victory since joining the Unlimited ranks. It makes him the winningest active driver we have going in this sport right here, right now. And it also ties the Atlas Van Lines Corporation with Anheuser-Busch as the winningest sponsor in unlimited hydroplane racing.
As he comes loose now off of corner number 4, that wall we call our rooster tail, coming off of half of the has submerged. Coming close to shore, the fans are putting their thumbs up, saluting the winner of the Circus Thunderboat Regatta, Chip Hanauer and the Atlas Van Lines. He's waving right now. He's a one happy guy.
We know that earlier this week, this course was named after his mentor, Bill Munsey, the man he replaced, driving the Atlas Van Lines. It's very appropriate that he wins it. Here comes our second place boat, the Coberly Chevrolet Special with Terry Turner, and that's his best finish, I believe, ever in unlimited hydroplane racing.
I was going to say that, Sam. And of course, when you think about it, Brenda Jones, who finishes 3rd just by hanging on there the longest, that's her best finish also.
That's right, Chip Hanauer wins it. That's his 5th win on the unlimited circuit thus far this year. He's our leading boat in the National High Point Chase. This victory has just about assured him and Atlas Van Lines of the national championship.
Okay, first place to the Atlas Van Lines with Chip Hanauer. Terry Turner with the Coberly Chevy Special takes 2nd. 3rd place goes to Brenda Jones in the KYYX. Overall 4th goes to the Squire Shop with Tommy DeHeath. 5th by points and elapsed time would go to the U80 with Ron Armstrong. Overall 6th goes to rookie George Johnson in the Executone. And we'll be back on ESPN with an interview with a happy winning driver after this timeout. As the sun slowly sinks in the west here at Mission Bay, San Diego, California, happy winning driver. Chip, congratulations.
Thank you, Jim. It feels good to win here in San Diego.
Now, Sam Cole, I understand you did some figuring just before the commercial break, and you said that he just about got the national championship all locked up.
That's right, 1,100 points. From here we go to our World Championship in Houston. Is that going to affect your strategy over there?
It really will. You know, we can go to Houston now and pull out all the stops and really try and win that race. If we went to Houston and it was still a tight points race, we'd have to take it easy just to make sure we finished. Now we can go all out every heat.
Chip, I've got one last question. You seem to like ESPN. Every time we turn the cameras on, you win.
ESPN's been great. Maybe I can get them to broadcast all the races next year.
You know, when you come right down to it, in that very first heat of action, when you broke, we were figuring up the points. Had the Budweiser, who was leading when Jim Cropfield was leading when he broke, you would have been only about 212 points difference.
You can bet I was on that dock hoping that the engine gremlins that got me jumped off of my boat and jumped right onto his, because if he would have finished, it would have maybe been the end of the day for the Atlas Van Lines.
Do you really feel that they're gremlins? Do you hear them the last lap when you know the checker flag is waiting?
Oh boy, you start listening awful hard if you don't hear them.
Okay, Sam Cole, anything that you'd like to conclude?
No, I just can't wait to see our World Championship, because you know Chip's going to be aiming for that winner's circle over there.
Not only the national crown, but of course the world title at the Budweiser World Cup in Houston, Texas. Along with Sam Cole, Chip Hanauer, I'm Jim Hendrick. So long.